Hello, everyone. This is Heartwoods Haven, and I am your host, Brandy Swords. And we have a special guest today, Tony Baldwin. Hi, Tony.
Hi, how you doing? Glad to be
Good.
on here.
Good. Yes, thank you so much for joining me.
You're more than I've been excited about it ever since we talked about doing the podcast. I'm excited about getting this out.
Yes, and I'm so excited because we talk about this with, men's mental health, and a lot of people, need to hear this, especially
Yeah.
men, people struggling. So I appreciate you coming on and just kind of telling your story and, yeah, putting it out there.
Well, it was such a struggle, and we talk about stigmatism a lot, even now. But I think for men, it's not still so readily acceptable because men, first of all, function on a different brain length wave than what women do. We
Yeah.
want to keep everything bottled up to ourselves. And with my story of being an ordained minister for 15 years, you're kind of put on a pedestal whether you want to be or not. Even being a minister or ordained minister or a pastor, people put ministers on a pedestal that they have no problems. Um, it's almost like you're not allowed to be human.
Yeah.
And when I went through what I did with the addiction, it was never my plan to ever become addicted to pain medication
Mhm.
from the accident. And I'll never forget because I had been in full time ministry for 15 years. I still have friends that are in mission fields in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and Cape Town, South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, and I could call them up. They probably still don't know what's happened over the years, but um, I just done it because I wanted to do something different for God. I knew I
Yeah.
had a calling on my life, but at the time I didn't understand what it was going to be. Um, and I started in ministry very, very young. I was only 17 when I felt
Yeah.
the call of God on my life. And prior to that, of course, I was in high school. And of
Yeah.
course, I partied just like all the high school people do. I was an athlete, and um, I'll never forget that day. I was walking through my dad's field, and I literally, besides not having the lack of words of saying it was a supernatural touch that I had from God. I never experienced anything like it.
Mm.
And so I ended up started going to church. My uncle pastored at the time, so I kind of sat under him for a couple of years, and we began to evangelize all over Ohio, West Virginia,
Wow.
Kentucky, and this was 7 days a week plus holding down a full time job.
Oh, my.
And yeah, but just like the old saying, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Um, that's how it was. And I loved it so much. It wasn't the attention of it. I could care less about that. But I really liked seeing homes being brought back together,
Yeah.
and seeing husband, wives being brought back together. And of course, because I'd gotten saved so young, I really was in a bubble compared to what I know now.
Mm.
And but we actually went to a church in Eastern Kentucky. I was on the ministerial staff there. Um, I was very involved. I wasn't one of these type of people that maybe went to church on a Sunday once a month. I
Mm.
went to church on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and then if we had anything going on between the Tuesday and Thursday, I was always there. So I was really involved with it. And I'll never forget the morning I woke up. I was so sick. I didn't realize what was going on, but I was DTing so bad. And I
Oh.
realized that I was addicted to pain pills. And I immediately stepped out of ministry. I called our pastor, and I told him what was going on. I told him I need to step out of ministry. And a lot of people that I had been at their homes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning praying for them and their families, I was so shocked about how they turned their back on me.
Oh.
Um, they literally wouldn't. They would cross the street to keep from talking to me,
Wow.
and so yeah, I was so devastated. And then that began to set up into anger and rage. And and of course, I'm no psychologist or psychiatrist. I know that addiction will cause a chemical imbalance in the brain at times. But I had begun to notice that I was someone that always kept my emotions in check. I never allowed myself to be seen that I was aggressive towards anybody, or even if I was frustrated with them, I tried to be very diplomatic in how I handled things,
Mm-hmm.
and things just began to change. Um, Before I knew it, this is going to sound so horrible, and I in no way am I glamorizing this or proud of this, but I grabbed up there was two young boys that was 18, 19 years old, standing in front of me and my two kids at a gas station, and they were flirting with the two girls behind the counter, and
Mm-hmm.
they was using some of the ungodliest language in front of my kids, and everybody in that town knew me,
Mm-hmm.
and knew I also didn't play games. But I made these two young boys get on their knees and ask for my children's forgiveness for them speaking like that in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first time I'd ever got aggressive toward anybody outside of my family or anything. And but the longer it went with my addiction, I had no one to turn to, no one to talk to about it. Um, I began to notice that my anger and my rage was getting so bad that I, it was like I didn't have control over it. If something happened in front of me, I just reacted to it, and I end up with the consequences later. That's why I, at one of the CIT trainings, I brought a handful of mugshots of me,
Mm-hmm.
and Susan thought it was funny. She thought I was joking that I had all these mugshots of me back in the day, of where I had went to jail over things,
Mm-hmm.
and but she thought it was funny seeing me in jumpsuits, I guess. So,
Yeah.
uh, but of course, she just doesn't expect that out of me, and when Jess and I got together, she was working on her psychology degree, and of course, you probably heard me tell the story. I was psychoanalyzed on a daily basis, whether she was writing a paper or doing a study. I was always her person that she went to ask questions, and
Mm-hmm.
about how addicts think, and what their goals are or what they want to do. And but it made me realize that maybe because the chemical imbalance in my brain from the drug addiction,
Mm-hmm.
which mental illness runs in my family anyways. Um, but I decided I needed to get some help for it, and I began to see a counselor. I began to see a psychiatrist, and that's when they had diagnosed me with bipolar and PTSD. And and of course, to me, that was always taboo. Uh, PTS was only things that military people dealt with. Um, just me being ignorant about it. And but when I began to find out, and I didn't even realize that certain smells would trigger my PTSD. I remember Jess had put a certain type of soap in my bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and the first time I used it, that smell triggered my PTSD. That
Mm-hmm.
I immediately went into a rage, throwing the soap, and I had no clue why until I realized what that soap reminded me of. And so that's when I really began to seek out help with the PTSD and the bipolar. And plus, I was still drinking at the time. I hadn't quit drinking, so all this was just building up.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I finally got some help and a counselor that I could really talk to and feel like I can open up with. It wasn't one of these counselors that would ask a question and you give an answer and then they say, "Well, how does that make you feel?" I
Yeah.
would get so frustrated with counselors that do that.
Yeah.
Um, just because I think a lot of them do it because they don't know how to keep a conversation going. But
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some get better over the years. But as I begin to educate myself and realize that I could notice the triggers from my PTSD and my bipolar, plus they put me on medication, which is non-narcotic. But one of the best ones they put me on was Latuda. And what Latuda does is it allows your mind to not race all the time
Mm.
because I could go 3 or 4 days without sleep, and because of my bipolar and my PTSD, I mean, I was up for 3 and 4 days at a time. And then when you start adding sleep deprivation to PTSD and bipolar, it
Yeah.
just magnifies it a lot.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I agree. I think that's the biggest thing. And like you said, I guess we always think, "Oh, this will never happen to us," and why would this happen? Why does things happen? I have a lot of people that talk to me about that. They're like, "Why does this happen? Why would it happen to me?" It's like there's no
exactly.
rhyme or reason. Like you said, you didn't know that's what you had. You didn't
Yeah.
know any symptoms until you started, getting information. And I think that's a
Hmm.
lot. We just are not aware. I
Yeah.
didn't know that I had this or that, and I'm like you. I went through a lot of insomnia periods, or just
Okay. Yeah.
and oh man, it was awful. It's like I couldn't even function. Everything just I dealt with the anger, the just short tempered, and just I was on edge all the time because I just was just out of it. It's like a zombie
Yeah.
walking, you know.
What you take somebody that doesn't have any mental disease whatsoever and you put them out there and they go 3 or 4 days without any sleep or rest, they're going to be on edge and grouchy themselves without anything poking at it and making it worse.
Yes.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was one of those type of people. I thought that happens to other people, not me,
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
luckily, I had a wife that was understanding and that could see the signs for herself.
Yeah.
And that's what really opened the door for me to try to get help for myself. And I mean, I still go through counseling to this day because it's always a process.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you wake up different. And but but since I have gotten help, my life has turned around 180 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just how I interact with people.
Yeah.
Um, Jess used to say that I had a mafia mentality,
Mm.
and what she meant by that was I had only 3 or 4 people that I trusted that I would even speak to about certain situations. I trusted no one, and that's a miserable life to live.
Yeah.
And then when I begin to get help and get counseling, I see that, if I'll never forget, um, again, not to glamorize this, there was a gentleman that owed me money, and he had owed me money for about 8 months.
Hmm.
And I had just so happened drove by his mother's house, and their front door was open, and
Hmm.
he was asleep on the couch. And I pulled my car in there. I don't knock on the door or anything. And I jerked him up, and I open hand slapped him in front of his wife all over because he owed me this money. And, they could have gotten me for breaking, entering, assault, a litany of charges. And, which thank God I didn't get any charges with that. But that's a good way to somebody get shot. And I just felt like I had nothing to live for before I met Jess. I didn't have anything that I could put my hopes and dreams into anymore. And like I said, the education was the biggest thing to make me open my eyes. And I wanted to get better, not only for myself, but for Jess. Matter of fact, she's the whole reason that I quit drinking. Um, I'm not sure if you heard the story how I quit drinking, but um, I had came off from work, and I had stopped and bought a 30 pack and a gallon of whiskey. And her cousin was coming over that afternoon,
Hmm.
and we had drank through the 30 pack of beer and went through the gallon of whiskey. And the next morning, I passed Jess in the hallway, and I told her I'm done drinking because I could tell it made her really nervous.
Hmm.
And she rolled her eyes, and that was September the 9th of '09. It was the last day that I had a drink.
Well,
And I knew I loved her, and I didn't want to expose her to that. She deserved better than that.
hmm.
And yeah, I've never had a drink since. And
Congrats.
well, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and I honestly, my father was an alcoholic too, and I seen what he went through trying to come off alcohol. I figured I would have the horrible shakes and the DTS. Excuse me, but luckily, by the grace of God, I didn't have any withdrawals coming off the alcohol, and that's only by God's grace.
Hmm.
So,
Oh, I
but
agree. I always say that if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here because I'm like,
yeah,
things that I've experienced and seen, I'm like, there's no way you can tell me there's not a God,
that's
because
right.
I've been in so many situations. I'm like, I should not be here. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
me
And
too.
I tell a little bit about mine because it's when I was pregnant with my son, like I died twice. And I came back and I'm like, I wasn't
Oh
supposed to be.
wow,
So I'm like, I mean,
wow,
yeah, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. So, and I'm like you, I think we're human. And I like how
we
you said
are.
being, a man of God and the pressure and the judgment, because like you said, everybody's looking at you like, oh, well, you believe in God, you're preaching, you're doing all these things. How can you have problems? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
And you're human.
people don't realize that pastors and ministers are human. They have a wife or a husband, and they go through the same things that any other home goes through.
Yep.
And there's always issues. And but I remember I felt so alone
Mm-hmm.
because for 15 years, I kept people close to me that
Mm-hmm.
were minister friends of mine. We were always doing things together. And then when I came out about my addiction, it was like it was a ghost town. No one knew me. No one wanted anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Um, Not even give me a chance to even explain what may have triggered this or what had happened. And the longer it went, the madder I got, and the more anger and the more the rage was. And I didn't know how to handle it. And
Yeah.
there was so many times I'd be sitting in a bar and think, a couple of years ago, I was preaching a revival on a Friday, Saturday night, and now I'm sitting in Johnny's Lounge in Jackson, Ohio, shutting the bar down.
Mm-hmm.
And how does a man that has preached, and I don't mean this boastful, but in front of thousands of people overseas and
Mm-hmm.
seen God move in miraculous ways, and here I'm sitting in a bar. How do I get from that to the man that I was then?
Yeah.
And never could understand how I made the change. And I remember having it because it's been work of staying clean and staying on focus with my counseling and reaching out to help, despite as bad as my me as a man not wanting to ask for help,
Yeah.
still ask for help when I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And God has turned around and He has restored my family, my kids, my grandchildren. Our family is the best it's ever been now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's little things I thought about when I met you in Chillicothe, that you was just another person I believe that God spoke in the will of my will to allow me to have access to other people that can either help us help other people, or them help me, or me help them in one way or another. And I could tell immediately where your heart was when I met you in Chillicothe, and it was so refreshing to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's amazing when you come together and people you do not know, and then you start talking, and you can just feel it. You can just
Yeah, you
feel you get where people are, and I understand. And that's the biggest thing with me. It's like I've been through so much in my life, and I was like, I'm not going to be in the shadows anymore. I'd rather be the person that's going to speak up and stand out there, because it doesn't matter if I'm judged or what people say, because I got to live with myself, and this is what God
can.
wants me to do. This is what I'm
Yeah,
supposed to be doing.
absolutely. Well, I've got friends that I've played sports with all my life, and done martial arts with, and they will see me post something, if what they call sappy, on
Yeah,
my Facebook, whether it's about my English bulldogs or my grandbabies, and they're like, "Is this the same Tony Baldwin I knew 5 years ago?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And they're like, "You turned into a big sap," in a laughing way.
yeah,
And which some of them knows the situation I've came through, but I've had to making yourself vulnerable
yeah,
is one of the hardest things, because hurting people hurt people.
yes.
And that's where I was at. I was constantly on the other edge of hurting someone else,
Mhm.
whether it be with my words or my actions or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to change. And yeah, I heard a quote several years ago that if you call yourself a leader and no one's following, all
Mhm.
you're doing is taking a walk.
Mm,
And yeah, that always hits so deep with me.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how I kind of judge it.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think, there's situations where you're at the right place, the right time, and people's going to come into your life that's meant to be there. And I've learned
Yeah,
hard, like people that you think have your back and it's always going to be there, they're just there for a short period of time. They're a
yeah,
different in your life. And I've learned that sometimes someone's coming with me on the journey, and then sometimes they're not. And it took me a
yeah.
long time to get over that, because I was like, I'm like, how can we, leave people behind? And it's not about that, but I'm growing and changing, and I have to take a different path sometimes, and they can't come.
Sometimes you do. yeah, and just like the Bible talks about separating the wheat from the chaff, sometimes, well, I don't know if you know anything about eagles. Um, Eagles are attacked in midair, uh,
Mhm.
especially by crows and things, and the crows will at the back of an eagle. Never at one time will the eagle down to defend itself. It continues to climb higher, and the crow will continue to peck at the back of the eagle's neck, continue to climb higher and higher because he knows if he keeps his eyes on the prize of going higher, eventually that crow can no longer get any oxygen into its lungs and it will just fall off without fighting against it. And
Uh,
that's how some people they come in your life, and sometimes you don't realize it, but they're draining you. But
yeah.
if you keep focused on what you're supposed to be doing, that they'll eventually just fall off, and you'll not have to do nothing about it.
Yeah. Oh, and that's beautiful. Yeah. I never look at things like that, but you're so right. I think a lot of times because I've been there where I turn the hurt into anger because of the pain,
Yeah,
and I'm just not who I'm supposed to be. I'm not, I'm nasty and taking out on people I shouldn't be. Instead of worrying about this and that and gossip, I just got a point where I got to walk ahead. It's not helping me. It's dragging me down. You
yeah.
know.
And it's so easy because we are human, and we all want to be accepted by our peers, the people that we're around. And
Yes.
some people are just toxic, and
Yeah.
and that's what I have learned too. Just keep my head down, continue what I'm doing, and don't allow them to affect my walk with the people that I am helping. And
Mhm.
eventually, they will fall off by the wayside because they can't go to the higher ground with me.
Yeah.
And and then I don't have to do nothing about it. But it's so easy, especially when you're hurt. Someone hurts you or says something that really hurts you, or what you're doing for people. It's so easy for that to turn into anger or rage, and I know it is for me, and I have to really catch myself not to revert back to that person I used to be.
Yes.
And yeah, I just, and it's not easy because, like I said, we still are human. We ask for God's forgiveness on a daily basis,
Yep.
um, but we have to strive to be more Christ-like. But I love your ministry. I love what you're doing. I can hook up with anything at any time. Matter of fact, when my memoir gets finished, we will be doing podcasts, and I would love to get you on a podcast with my new memoir, and maybe we can talk about that too.
Yes, that's awesome. That's amazing. And I mean, you seen yourself back then and how you are now. What is one thing that
Yeah.
people don't know about you?
Most people don't know that I was even a minister, um,
Okay.
because where I've been out of ministry for so long. Matter of fact, um, give you example, our daughter and granddaughter had came up to Chillicothe when I spoke up there,
Yeah.
and she was so young when I stepped out of ministry. She was 2 days old when I took over a new church in Fort Gay, West Virginia, to pastor it. And when I walked off stage, she was bawling. She's like, Dad, it's been so long since I've even heard you speak. And
Wow.
it actually made her look at me totally different, even
Yeah.
though she knew all this stuff and she had heard all these stories, good stories from the past. It took her to another level in our relationship.
Wow.
So, but I, and I feel like a chameleon because I can go in and talk to a doctor and relate to him, and I can go right off the street and talk to a drug addict and
Yep.
relate to him. And I can always switch those hats of what I need to be to build that person.
Yeah. And I'm like you because it doesn't matter. I always say that because it doesn't matter where you come from, how much money you have, where you work. Everybody has mental health. Everybody's
Oh,
struggling.
absolutely.
We're going to step out there, and we're trying to tell our story to help others. That's the biggest
Yeah,
thing. So they're not alone.
yeah, they're not alone. And that's what I want to get through to other people and men too, that they're not alone in this. They're not by themselves. I'm not sure if we left Chillicothe up there that day that we spoke. Did Jess tell you what happened when we was loading up?
She kind of said a little bit, but I didn't get the full story. So I'd love to hear it.
There was a young man I had seen when we was walking out to your trailer, your books and your hats and stuff. I had seen green black Suzuki, and he had one of those things to put his phone on so he could record while he's riding.
Yeah.
Yes, when I was loading up, I was taking everything out of the car, and I know a helmet on, and he reaches me, and I said, "I'm not understanding what this paper is for." He said, "Just read it," and he drives off. And on the piece of paper, he said, "Keep striving. God will do what you ask him for."
Oh,
And the guy just drove off out of nowhere. And I'm assuming he initialed it R. And Jess was like, "Tony, that was so weird." I hadn't talked to him, didn't know who he was or anything.
yeah.
And, but it was very encouraging that he just left me, gave me that note. It's still in my car to this day. So
Oh, I mean, God's everywhere, right? It's like you don't
he is
realize
absolutely
that you don't even know. I mean, that's amazing
no,
that this guy felt like this is something, and maybe God said, "Hey, Tony, this is for you. I need to give you this
yeah,
message."
yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. The whole time I was thinking that maybe I could say something to help someone else when God just sent a guy buying a motorcycle to give me a piece of paper to encourage me. And
Yeah.
it just blowed me away. And but
Yeah.
yeah, I've thought about that so many times, and I'm not giving up on that. I believe that God is going to allow us to do more things and better things to help people in the community with mental health issues, and maybe kill some of this stigmatism that, especially with men, that
Yeah.
it's not okay to talk about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's amazing story. I didn't get all the details, so I wasn't sure. So I'm like, but like you said, touch, you don't even know who he is. And they're just like, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. It's the point that you touch someone. And I
yeah,
love when people message me or talk to me and I'm like, they'll know me and I don't know them. And I'm like, it doesn't
yeah.
matter. I was like, if I'm touching or helping in any way, I'm blessed. That's all that matters.
That's right.
You
You
know?
you've done something to touch their lives, and us not even know it.
Yeah.
So, but it's amazing what just by opening our mouths, what we can do to help people, and the people we can help. Sometimes it may be a doctor or a lawyer, but maybe there again, it may be somebody that's homeless that is
Yep.
needing just a kind word, encouragement that, hey, we can make it because we have to take it day by day.
Yep.
There's some people that wake up every morning not knowing if they're going to make it through that day or not. And so we just never know when God is going to use us as that conduit of his power to help just anybody.
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, it's just a blessing. And sometimes you don't know just the simple things that matter and not preparing, I went out there and just started talking and randomly doing stuff and it made a difference. So I'm like,
Yeah,
God, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'll continue to do whatever,
that,
and human. And I like to get out there and show every side. I can be funny,
yeah,
laugh and goofy, laugh at myself. I'm like, that's what it should be. We just should all be able to smile and have fun, but still have each other's back.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, because I relate to anybody. Um, I could tell you some funny ministry stories. I mean, and the thing about it is, again, because I was in ministry, people don't expect things like that to be talked about in ministry or about ministry in that way. But like I said, ministers are real too, and they go through real things, and they have real problems also.
Yeah.
And you know, I just want to get to the place where everyone knows no matter what, they can contact me. And if I don't have the help, that I can get you the help somewhere, somehow, because of the resources that I've gained over the years.
Yes. Yes. I agree. Well, my
I know.
last question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was just such a blessing meeting you up there other day, or in Chillicothe. Jess had told me about you, but I hadn't personally met you, and I could tell that your heart and your spirit is fully sold out to what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love that because I try to just be myself and and I'm just out there and I hope people can see that kind of light shining and be like, hey, I'm here to help. What can
Hmm.
I do? Make that safe space. I mean, that is my main goal for everything. And thank you so much for coming and speaking,
Oh,
because we
anytime.
need we need that. And and you
We
guys
do.
showing up. Yeah.
If we could get more men speaking out, even at suicide prevention
Yeah.
conferences or whatever, I think other men, because the suicide rate in young teenage men is so much higher than what it is for women or young teenagers,
Mhm.
but there's such a load on young men that are just married and just having kids,
Yeah.
the stress that they go under, and they're expected to carry that and not ask for help.
Yeah.
That's just what they think that defines a man. And in reality, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
And it always comes out later. It's like we're all human, so that just builds up. And then what happens?
yeah,
They explode. They make bad decisions. They do bad. That's how it is. I know if I
yeah,
don't know what's going on, that anger builds up, and then I end up doing or saying something I shouldn't be doing because
yeah,
I did not want to process it, and I was angry at someone else. And
yes,
I've learned triggers is a big thing. I've really had to learn what my triggers are and what I'm supposed to do. So, and
same
that's
here.
a big one, right? Because I was like, triggers. I'm like, what is
Yeah,
it? You know what I mean? Like, I experienced that until something triggered me. Like you said, a smell, a sound, anything. And I'm like, what is this going on?
yes, absolutely. And noticing what those triggers are, it does make a huge difference, because the more we know about ourselves and our triggers that happens to us, we can relay those to other people too.
Yes. And the biggest thing is getting to know yourself and accepting yourself is huge because there's a lot
It
of
is.
times like you don't want to sit with yourself. You're your biggest critic.
Yes, yes. Well, I would be so embarrassed because, and like I said, I was an ordained minister for 15 years. So, as far as talking in front of a crowd of people, that never bothered me at all. But when it came down to me talking about me and my problems and
Yes.
my failures, that's where I really struggled. And getting, and still to this day, bringing up certain things. I remember when I was working on my memoir, Jess walked in my office one day. I had been in here for about an hour, and I don't even think I had even wrote a word, but
Mm,
because I was sitting here replaying the things that happened in my childhood and the things that had happened through the years, I
mm,
sit here for about, probably an hour at my desk, bawling my eyes out because I couldn't even get to the place to put pen to paper just because I couldn't get past the hurt that I still dealt with from my parents and my brother, and I still deal with it to this day.
yeah,
It was so odd. My dad and I had an all right relationship, but the last probably 15 years of my mom and I relationship, I may have seen her twice in 15 years. And in the last 10 years of my relationship with my brother, I I hadn't spoke to him at all in probably about 10 years. We had a falling out,
yeah.
and it was so unbelievable. I get a phone call from my mother's brother to tell me she had fallen in her apartment in Ashland, Kentucky. And by the time that we had, and mind you, I hadn't seen her in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the out of her mind by the time we got down there. But what me the worst was she passed away about a month and a half later. I had moved her home close to our house on Rosemont Hill. And when she passed away, we did become tormented. And she, yeah, think about her, but she lived off of drama, pain,
Mm,
and pain,
yeah.
which going to show up at a funeral. So we didn't even have a funeral. And
Yeah.
then it was 2.5 weeks later, I get a phone call that my brother that I hadn't spoke to in 10 years passed away at home. He was
Mm,
only 2 years older than I was. And living with the guilt because I keep thinking I could have done maybe to restore those relationships. Still
yeah.
catch myself to this day living that, you know.
Yeah. And what going through so much and dealing with your triggers, what helps you? What do you do when you feel triggered and today what do you do? How do you help yourself when you are struggling?
I am struggling. Usually I will go off to myself because in my quiet time, that's when I know that I can allow God to speak to me. It,
Mm,
he can get my attention, even though I may be furious, angry. God can seem like always talk to me through those times of quietness, and
mm,
and a lot of times if Jess and I have words or something, most time she's already right. I just don't want to believe that she's right, just like any other husband. So, but
yeah.
but yeah, when I look at it and break it all down, normally 90% of the time she's right. So, but
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm still a man and I still have some pride left. So I have to act like I'm a man of the house sometimes at least. So
Yes, I can't say none. I'm human. I'm pretty stubborn. So my husband has put up with me for 22 years. And that's saying
yeah,
a lot. Because I'm like, yeah, because I'm stubborn and thinking, oh, I'm always right. And I'm like, hey, I am always right now.
yeah,
But
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
it
Well,
is.
women see things from a different perspective than what most men are.
Yeah.
Most men see things that's going to bring self gratification quickly, and it's going to end the problem.
Yeah.
When that's just putting a band aid on it, and a woman, they will see things long term of what it's going to take to heal the problem.
Yeah. You're right. And I think because like me, myself, I can think of like 20 different things. And my husband's
Yeah,
like, why are you doing that? Let's just focus on the first problem. And I'm like, well, this problem leads to this problem. I'm like, I'm
it
already thinking that.
does.
And he's like, oh my gosh, how do you do that?
You're so right, though. You guys see the bigger pictures, especially with the kids and grandbabies. And to me, it's like, do this. This will fix the problem.
Yeah.
But just but that may weeks. But what we going to second, third week when it comes, and I'm usually going back and re guessing myself then.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. It's a whole different life, having kids and then having grandkids. It's amazing. It's totally different. I mean, just
Totally
parenting
different.
styles, everything's different. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because my grandbabies get by with, and they're all girls, so they've got me wrapped from the get go.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so Mamaw has to be the more disciplinary one, or I'll let her be. That way I look okay. So
Yes.
when the kids were growing up, I married one, I was one, and if there was time, I brought discipline. But yeah, with our girls, now then I will step into that. But as of right now, she can take care of the baby girls.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean. We have all grandsons. We have no girls.
Oh,
So
you're
we don't
kidding.
have any girls yet. So it's just all boys all the time.
Yeah, so you guys got just the opposite of what we got.
Yeah. So I'm like, maybe there'll be some girls eventually, but right now we just have all boys. So
Yeah,
it's,
all boys.
yep. So we do everything. Everything's rough, tough, mud, whatever. Just in general, it's just a
Yeah,
fun time because I'm like, I love being
it
out in
is.
nature, getting muddy. So like, it's up my alley. I don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And enjoying watching those boys grow. That's
Yes.
what's so funny. When my ex-wife and I divorced, it dawned on me what every day that I had a chance to have an impact on my kids' life, what did I do to make their life better, whether it be their thinking or how they acted, or did I make things worse because they saw how I acted? And
Yeah.
the damage that we can do, or the love that we can share with them, can
Yeah.
be hand in hand. And see Papa as the loving one, the easier going, and has more resolve than discipline.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a good balance.
And you're right because there's obviously as a parent I've made a million mistakes, but I'm realizing now I'm
Oh,
like
we all
I
do.
it's better to just own up and say, you know what, I'm sorry. I wasn't perfect. I messed up. I could have done
Yeah,
better. And now I'm trying to be a better example of how I can act and choose to do better things, because I want them to see, hey, I messed up. It's
yeah,
okay. Admit it. Let's grow from it. Let's keep moving forward, you know?
yeah. I remember the first time that I finally come, I was wrong, and I needed them to forgive me because I was wrong. That was going to kill me. I thought I was going to have a heart attack just by saying. But after I got it out and they saw what I was talking about, it brought us to another level in our relationship to where they trust me more. Just
Yeah.
because I could admit that I was.
Yes. And that's a hard one. That's a hard one when you admit when you're wrong. And they are like,
Yeah,
oh, Like, you're not perfect? No.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're dealing with people with alpha mentalities and attitude.
Yeah.
It's tough, but
Hmm.
once we're able to get past that and say, hey, hey, you was right,
Yeah.
but she told her that. So
And that, we live and learn. I mean, that's for sure.
we do, we
Yes.
do.
Well,
And,
I have one final question. I always love to ask
okay,
everybody. What advice could you
okay.
give someone that is struggling right now and just don't see anything good, don't have any direction? Is there any advice you could kind of share?
Would look for everybody has that, even though that they may not um, or talk to them as often as they should. Find that one person that they know that they can fully trust and open up conversation with them and allow it to come out what is actually going on instead of just saying, I'm having issues. Get down to the nitty gritty and saying, hey, I've relapsed, or hey, I'm dealing with rage and anger and I don't know how to get past it. But finding that one person that you know that you can trust and confide in them, because if you can really trust that person, they will do what is best and try to get you the best help as possible. And because no one's out there that they don't have one person they can't trust.
Yes.
Now, at one point, I felt like that I didn't have anyone that I could trust. A matter of fact, I went years that I felt that way. And to come to find out, if I had turned and contacted some of these people, but even then, I think the reason I didn't contact them was out of fear and my own pride.
Yeah.
But if I would have just opened up to them, they would have got me as much and as best help as they probably could.
And you're right. I think it's hard to open up, and that's the biggest fear. Someone wanting to pick up that phone, they're like, I'm just too embarrassed, or I'm ashamed, or
Yeah.
I worry about judgment. And I try
Yes.
to tell people, please make that call or text or any kind of message or something, because I mean, we've all been there, and it is very hard.
We
And I
have
tell other people, I'm
it.
like, please reach out, check on people. Please text them, just say, hey, thinking of you today. It's the little things that
Yeah.
have helped me, for someone just to
Mhm.
come, you sit with me. You don't have to talk to me. You don't have to solve my
Yeah.
problem, but just to let me know you're thinking of me, because I really needed that today.
Yeah. And we never know who that is going to affect the most just by sending them a quick text message. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about you right now. Just hope everything's good. If not, my door's open.
Yeah.
That would affect.
Yeah. I agree. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for coming on here today. I can't wait. Please let us know when your memoir comes out. And is there a date or anything?
No, not publishing issues right now, but I'm hoping within the next 8 to 9 months that we should have it published and out by then.
Oh,
I've even got book signings that are already set up in 9, 10 months from now already. So I'm gonna have to get on the board and get on the publishing end of this and get it going. But
well, that's
I'm
amazing.
excited about getting it out. Huh?
Well, that's amazing. And it's going to come out when it's supposed to come out, you know?
Yeah, it will. And again, the name of the book is From a Pulpit to a Pill. And it's
Uh,
about me being in ministry and falling into addiction and recovering from that. And if you can take someone like me that was in full time ministry, doing everything I could, traveling the world just to tell people about Jesus that can fall and return, then anybody else can too.
yes. Yes. I'm so excited to read it. I think it'll be amazing. It's going to help so many people.
I hope it does. That's my main thing. Is I mean, from people that's in the prisons, that's addiction, that are recovering addicts, people in the churches. There's a lot of people in the churches that have no clue how to deal with people that are addicts or recovering addicts. And
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a little more. Don't get me wrong, prayer is always good, but having some human knowledge behind that will help a long ways too.
Yes. Yes, I agree completely.
But you are doing an amazing job with this podcast and everything you're doing. Very proud of you. I know I just got to know
Oh,
you, but
yeah.
anytime
Thank
you need anything, feel free to call us.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on here today. And definitely we'll have to get back together because I want to hear more
Yeah,
about all this and spreading the word. And like I said, we'll continue to do what we're doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I got plenty of stories, so we can cover a couple months anyway.
Well, good.
So,
That's perfect. I do too. I can talk forever. So I'm like, I got plenty. So that would be awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Contact us anytime.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. And I'll catch up with you next time.
Okay. Thanks, Brandy.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.